Now, many people have their ideas about how Islam was spread. Many people say, for example, Islam was spread by the sword. That is, people were given the chance to confess Islam or die. In general, people were forced to adopt Islam at sword point only on the Arabian Peninsula. The use of military power to establish political control over a territory, followed by gradual Islamization through preaching, was far more common. So you can say that political control led to religious conversion. In some cases, the Christian populations actually helped Muslims gain control. That was particularly the case in Syria and Egypt because they were more tolerant than the oppressive Byzantines, who persecuted other Christians. They also extended Islam by political alliances and intermarriage with the daughters of local chieftains. Particularly, this was the case in North Africa. And then by trade, especially to the south of the Sahara, the traders would spread the religion of Islam. And then in modern times, we see especially Islam being extended by immigration, especially in the West. Islam began to experience a decline in the 11th century and experienced a radical decline through the end of the 13th century. First things that we see that marked the beginnings of this decline were the end of Arab political dominance that was marked by the rise of the Almoravid and the Seljuk dynasties in the 11th century. These were the first non-Arab Muslim powers, and that began to fragment the unity of Islam. Also, European colonial expansion began with the Crusades, starting from about 1095 to 1291. Traders followed the Crusaders. Now, the Crusades were triggered in part by the fall of Anatolia to the Seljuks, cutting off the Holy Land from European pilgrims, and led to what they called the Reconquista of Spain. And that was probably the darkest era or hour of Christian-Muslim relations, and of course the effects of that continue today. There's a great deal of bitterness among Muslims over the Crusades. The end of Arab cultural dominance, which was marked by the Mongol demolition of the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad in 1258. In the 15th through the 19th centuries, Islam was in full decline. During that period, Muslim expansion and conquest overlapped with disintegration. For example, although the Ottomans conquered Constantinople in 1453 and they advanced to the gates of Vienna in 1683, there were also a number of events that contributed to their decline. In 1492, a year very familiar to Westerners, the Muslim kingdom of Granada fell, and they were expelled from the Iberian Peninsula 10 years later under the rule of Ferdinand and Isabella, who, as you know, financed Columbus's expedition to the New World. Later, Muslims were expelled from Sicily and the island of Malta. In 1498, Vasco da Gama opened up a new trade route around the Cape of Good Hope, and therefore the Muslims' lucrative overland trade route dried up. In the 1700s, the Ottoman Empire in the east crumbled due to expansionist Russia, which annexed the Islamic countries of Central Asia. In the 1800s, Western European colonial powers colonized the western half of the empire, much of Africa and Eastern Asia, including India, which had previously been controlled by Muslims in many areas. In 1924, we had mentioned that the caliphate was abolished by Mustafa Kemal, or Ataturk as he is called, who proclaimed a new secular Republic of Turkey, which was not based on the Sharia, or the Muslim law of God.